There is still a silent exodus taking place. Last year, a shipper told me she moved 42 families from the US to Ghana for the month of June. And then this is just one shipping company. And me too, I've run into people, a lot of people in Kenya who I've met from all over the world, who are from the diaspora, who have moved there and settled. And even in my comments, people are telling me, I'm from so-and-so and I live here, Dan 13 Speed said, make sure you have consistent income either through retirement plan, pension plan, a gig, an investment, or business. Africa is beautiful and wonderful as long as you have money in your pocket. Surah 16:55 says, the overwhelming majority of retirees can easily afford to relocate to Africa. This is nonsense. You can live much better in Africa. You could buy a nice apartment for a fraction of what you can buy it for in America. In America, you could never afford that same kind of house that you're living in Africa. Honestly, Ghana is much more expensive than Kenya. You know what I'm saying? Even a simple Airbnb in Ghana is going to cost you a lot more than it costs you in Kenya. The move to Africa should always be a spiritual thing first. I'm saying, guys, a lot of the problems that we run into Africa is self-inflicted problems because we try to take shortcuts. Guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Drew Williams, and if you know anything about me, you would have known that I spent 3 months in Nairobi, Kenya. Now guys, in this video, we're talking about moving back to Africa, how a lot of people are living like dogs in the West, literally sometimes. Is it going to be worse living in Africa? I don't think so. And I'm going to read some of the comments from some of my, subscribers and viewers, and I'm going to tell you some of their point of views so you can, judge for yourself. And just keep it respectful, guys. We're not trying to disrespect nobody. And when I say people are moving to Africa, I don't only mean Americans alone. I mean Americans, Jamaicans, Canadians, British. I'm saying it's people from all over the diaspora, okay? So if you come to this channel, guys, keep it respectful, we don't want any beef, we just want like people giving their good input and see how we can help each other, right? I was speaking to some of my subscribers, right? You were talking about the move to Africa, right? And you were saying, why stay in the West and suffer? A lot of us are getting paycheck to paycheck, mental health issues, going through stress, family, racial profiling or whatever. Is it going to be that bad in Africa? I'm saying a lot of us in the West are living like dogs. Not literally like dogs, but you understand what I'm saying. I don't mean to be disrespectful. I'm just saying we're on a hamster wheel. It's going and around. What's going to hurt in moving to Africa? And I think the best way to move to Africa is just to educate yourself and have the right mindset. It can be done, guys. So it all depends now. What kind of lifestyle do you want to live in Africa? Do you want to go into Africa and floss? Do you want to go to restaurants every weekend? Or do you want to live like the locals? You don't have to live exactly like the locals, but can you cut a little bit of your costs? Can you try to save some money? Can you try to cook your own food a lot? You know what I mean? Can you try to not be on the bottle, not drinking alcohol? Some people want to party every weekend. It can be done. Or do you want to go into what's a good sustainable lifestyle as well is you move to, say for example, you buy a piece of land in the countryside and you build your own house. You're not physically have to do it yourself if you can't, but you can hire some builders. But again, do your right research to make sure you're employing the right people. If you try to take a shortcut, you might find out that building a property going to cost you 3 times as much, okay? And that's a problem with a lot of people. They try to use some cowboys to build their houses and try to take shortcut. And cheapness going to work out more expensive in the long run. So I said, if you're going to move to Africa, whatever you're going to do the right research. Because in every country, the thing I find with a lot of people, they move to Africa and, they get scammed or they get robbed or whatever. I'm talking about rob stick up. I'm talking about, people take their money, But I think a lot of people, they take too much shortcuts. They don't do their due diligence. You ever heard the saying, you have to spend money to make money? That means if you're going to buy some property, you're going to do some business, get a reputable lawyer. Don't just get a lawyer that somebody recommend. If somebody recommend a lawyer to you, you go and look him up. There's a database for lawyers. You go look them up. You go find out if they're registered. You understand? Because that person might be a lawyer, but they might have lost their license. You dig what I'm saying? So you have to, before you make any move or do any business or join any business with anybody, make sure you have contracts. But make sure you have your reputable lawyer, and then you hire that lawyer. And then what you can do, ask that lawyer about his past clients, get some numbers from him, and then you can contact those clients and find out if this lawyer, how does he work or whatever. I'm saying you don't have to do all of the last thing that I said, but make sure that you do your research, that this lawyer is registered, he's legal to work, because you can hold him responsible if he messes up, right? Don't go get no cowboy builder. Get the right builders. Do your right research. Don't hire Tom, John, down the road, or John Brown down the road because you heard that he's a builder. These are the problems that people run into. They go to Africa or go to anywhere. I'm from Jamaica. We get it all the time. People hire John Brown down the road because, you heard that he's a builder. Give him some money to build something. John Brown doesn't turn up with the money. Or he doesn't turn up to do his work. And then you find out it'll cost you to get the right builder, so you pay twice for the same job. Dig what I'm saying, guys? A lot of the problems that we run into Africa is self-inflicted problems because we try to take shortcuts, okay? And shortcuts, in Jamaica we say, shortcut, draw blood, and long road, draw sweat. That means the long road is going to make you sweat. The shortcut, you might feel it's short, but there's crazy obstacles and you might get hurt. The move to Africa, guys, is very sustainable. It's very sustainable. It just depends on what you want. You know what I'm saying? But I always say this, the move to Africa should always be a spiritual thing first. Like, when I mean spiritual thing, I'm not saying moving there in emotions. I'm saying move to Africa because you want a better frame of mind. You want to go back to the motherland. You want to repatriate, you want to go home. But at the same time, don't just do it solely on emotions. Check out if this country is right for you, whether infrastructure-wise, school-wise, if you have kids, check out everything that, needs to be done. Do your due diligence. You know what I'm saying? And plan. Then that's a lot of people's problem. They don't plan. They move to Accra, Ghana, and they don't know that Ghana is very, very, very expensive. You know what I'm saying? I'll be honest with you, Ghana is very much more expensive than Kenya. You know what I'm saying? Even a simple Airbnb in Ghana is going to cost you a lot more than it costs you in Kenya. Rent is going to cost you a lot more in Ghana than it costs you in Kenya. Buying a house in Ghana is going to cost you a lot more than it costs you in Kenya. But I'm not saying don't go to Ghana. I love Ghana. I love Ghanaians, just like I love everybody else in Africa. But Ghana holds a special place in my heart. You dig what I'm saying? Because I'm from Jamaica, and we have this Ashanti tribe in Jamaica. We always hear that we are Ghanaians or whatever. I don't know the whole facts of it. I have never done a DNA test. The way a lot of us are living in the West, you know what I mean? You can live much better in Africa, I'm saying, because the house, you go to some countries in Africa and you could buy a nice apartment for a fraction of what you can buy it for in America. In America, you could never afford that same kind of house that you're living in Africa. You know what I'm saying? Never. You work like a slave and you have to pay, you spend 30 years trying to pay it back. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm trying to say to you, yes, Africa is much cheaper, but it can be more expensive in the long run. But if you have a plan and you do it wisely, it can be done. You know what I'm saying? It can be done. You just have to go about it the right way, the sustainable way. When I'm a subscriber said, you think Ghana is expensive? Nigeria is worse. Another one said, the overwhelming majority of retirees can easily afford to relocate to Africa. This is nonsense. They're talking about my previous video, which I stated to paycheck, Americans can't afford to move to Africa. I wasn't accusing Americans of can't afford to Africa. It was just like, I heard there's a problem and we're trying to find a solution. So I'm reading the people's comments, and this other person said, this is why we say they have to build themselves first. Guys, I recently made a video, right? That's called, Americans can't afford to move to Africa. And that wasn't made to be disrespectful. That was just a video I found on the net. And the guy is saying a lot of Americans can't afford to move to Africa, even though they have, good mindset to do it, with good intentions. A lot of them are in financial difficulties in America because of paycheck to paycheck. So we have Chezugo, 2864 said, you think Ghana is expensive? Nigeria is worst. I really don't know much about, the expenses in Nigeria, but I can just imagine. Because if Ghana is expensive, Nigeria can be worse. because, I think West African countries are very expensive. Surah 16:55 says, the overwhelming majority of retirees can easily afford to relocate to Africa. This is nonsense. While I might agree with you that a lot of people can afford to move to Africa, it doesn't mean that they can sustain it if they don't have the right mindset. So I agree that a lot of people can afford to move there, but can they sustain it? And move to where? Princess Pixel Bell says, this is why we say they have to build themselves up first. While that is true, if you wait for that, then you might never move there. You have to try to move to Africa as well if you want. Bring your input, your knowledge from the West. Lashan Wordford 3666 says, when you plan on a move to Africa, whatever country you choose, is not much about how much money you have. It's your residual monthly income. And that's true. Just having savings alone, it's not going to work. It's going to run dry because remember, you're not putting anything back. Savvy X1T says, this is incorrect. As the cost of living is so freaking cheap, I don't desire to live in Africa. I could buy a house there and pay cash if I wanted to. I would like to visit at least one time to get the vibe of the era. I promise you, Savvy, you go to Africa, you're going to love it. Depends on the country you're going to love it. Yes, you might can afford it. No, I'm not saying you can't afford it. I'm saying, but we're just having a conversation. And a lot of the conversation is factual. Dan 13 Speed said, make sure you have consistent income either through retirement plan, pension plan, a gig, an investment or business. Africa is beautiful and wonderful as long as you have money in your pocket. Once you have no money, the honeymoon is over. That's so true, man. I try to tell people, going to Africa for a holiday and living there is two different kettle of fish. And I'm saying, one is, hey, I'm going to blow a certain amount of money, and the other one is like, you have to spend carefully. You have to educate yourself. The right mindset. Sally Ibrahim 6393 says, bro, you're right. You're a deep thinker. Also, the first step is visit. Secondly, see simple business that locals are doing and do it directly and do it differently. Then you can move from there. Even if you have a lot of money, still lay low. So I think what she's saying is when you go to Africa, see what people are doing and try to make an improvement on it. But even if you have money, still stay low. I think what she's trying to say is don't overspend, you know what I mean? Don't spend beyond your means. And even if you have a lot of money, just keep low. You know what I mean? Look for a long-term sustainability, all right? I am me 4070 says, why is it so expensive in Africa? Blacks are also going to Asia, Thailand, Philippines, Bali, and getting real cheap accommodations, food, school, that is much less than what they are paying in the US. These countries are also third world countries, just like Africa. While you might be right, while you might be right, a lot of people are going to these countries that you just mentioned, and they're stuck as well. Trust me. A lot of white Americans and British people, you might not see it, but it's there. But the reason why Africa is so expensive, I am me 4070 is because Africa import a lot. Africa don't produce too much things, I'm saying. So even when Africa have good sunshine, they don't produce the food that they're supposed to produce. So that's a problem, production. And then a lot of African countries are forced to import things that they actually grow or produce. I'm saying, so there's a problem. And we have the Chariot 99 says, a lot of Black Americans that moved to Ghana in 2009 have moved back to America. A lot of these Black Americans were living like expats, doing their grocery shopping in malls, supermarkets that will never be sustainable unless you are having that kind of money. I am in Ghana, America, and the best way to live there is to live like the locals. Do your grocery shopping outside in the hot sun. Yeah. Your meat at the meat market in the hot sun, not the butchery in the air-conditioned mall, LOL. Anything in the supermarket or malls will cost you the same price as America, almost. And that will defeat the purpose of living in Ghana. And that is true, guys. When I was in Kenya, buying fruits in the supermarkets are much more expensive than buying them on the streets. I'm saying. Yeah, so it depends on where you shop. If you're shopping where especially a lot of Westerners are shopping, it's going to be more expensive. So you just have to find some locals, you talk to them, they will tell you where to shop and buy things cheaply. Even in Norway here, I find places, like there's Arab shops where I go to buy, scallion, tomatoes, a lot of things much cheaper than the big supermarket. I'm telling you, I pay even less than half the price. It's ridiculous, guys. So it's true. In every country, you can find a better way, a cheaper way how to live. Find another comment and maybe we call it a day. Another person write, Shanika Smith. Sounds Jamaican. I'll go on, Shanika. Any American that moves to Africa will need a steady and stable income in order to move there. A lot of individuals a while back were talking about how individuals are living poor in Africa and in America. I think the guy is speaking the truth. Yes, it's a good idea to have a plan when moving to Africa. Yes, guys, plan. I think Shanika is totally right, guys. You can't just move. You have to have a perfect plan. All right, there's no perfect plan. But let's go to the last one. Heather Garden 8134 says, you need to start a business in the country that you're moving to. That way you can have income, not depending on the Western currency. Also the locals' currency. Also like the locals. Your money will last longer. Guys, I totally agree with her, you know what I mean? Start a business if you can, but first before you start a business, do your research because it might be very difficult. Jeffrey Parker said, a lot of black people have enough money. I do, and I am staying in my country, the USA. That's good for you, Jeffrey. I'm happy for you, bro. If you want to stay, Africa is not for everybody. Africa is for who have that African mindset, that awakening. I always say that. Junzu21 says, this doesn't make any sense to me. I wouldn't move to another state in the USA without having a job, guaranteed source of income. How on earth do people expect to move to a whole other continent with no financial plan? You can't just move to a foreign country and expect to wing it. Yeah, bro. People actually do that. People move off emotions. And they don't, as I said, Ghana would offer people free land and they go there and don't realize, okay, I get the free land, but, I'm going to have to pay for everything else that comes with it. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot that people don't understand when they're moving, guys. There's a lot. Another person said, Uncle Basil, you sound like money from Jamaica. What going, Uncle? Although most African Americans can afford to move to Africa, there is still a silent exodus taking place. Last year, a shipper told me she moved 42 families from the US to Ghana for the month of June. And then this is just one shipping company. Just yesterday, I ran into a family from the UK sometimes in the supermarket. I will run into folks from the US, etc., etc. This person is trying to say there's an exodus going on, a secret exodus that a lot of us don't know. There's not like a census that's been taken that, there's so amount of people from Canada to Ghana or to Kenya. We don't really have a specific number, but it's happening. You know what I'm saying? And me too, I've run into people, a lot of people in Kenya who I've met from all over the world, who are from the diaspora, who have moved there and settled. And even in my comments, people are telling me, I'm from so-and-so and I live here, So it's going on, A lot of people can afford the move and they probably have done their homework the right way, you know what I'm saying? We don't know. We're just trying to help and see what solutions we can come up with. The Chariot 99 says, Ghana is very expensive. You got to go there with a plan, not to chill. Real talk. You can't just go there and put your feet up and expect everything to work the right way. You have to have a very good plan. And I think that's a big problem. A lot of us go to Africa and think, it's cheap. I'm just going to chill. I'm saying, unfortunately, it's not so straightforward. Not everything in life is black and white. Another one. This other guy says, Sir Nicholas 2689 says, Black Americans are the richest blacks in the diaspora. Most countries don't have our spending power. SMH said, shake my head. Well, that's true, my bro. While that's true, it doesn't mean that, whoever from the black diaspora from America moved to Ghana or Kenya or whatever, they're gonna, they are very organized. Organizing and planning is the key. Anyway, guys, the last comment from, I can't pronounce his name. Name is Furis Daguya, whatever, saying, organization is the key. And that's the key to success, guys. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts. If you didn't hear your comments, it's too much for me to read. I'll go over it another day if I can. Let me know if you have made the move. How has it worked out for you? If you know anybody who has made the move, has it worked out for them? And guys, we want to know. I want to know. My viewers, my subscribers want to know. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel, guys. I'm out for now. Stay in tune, stay blessed. I'm out. Boop.